The Sanskrit word Virya is often translated as strength, energy, potency, or heroism. In ancient yogic, Vedic, and Buddhist traditions, it represents a masculine spiritual force, the seed of man's vitality, courage, and spiritual fire. But in its deepest layer, Virya is not just a poetic concept. It is rooted in a biological, psychological, and spiritual truth, the sacred power contained within a man's semen. To retain Virya is not merely to abstain from ejaculation. It is to give birth to a new way of being, one that elevates a man into his highest self. Semen retention is the vehicle through which the birth of Virya takes place. It is the fire that burns away mediocrity. It is the hammer that breaks the chains of lustful slavery. It is the path through which men go from being reactive animals to conscious creators. In this essay, we will explore how the practice of semen retention gives rise to Virya, and how that Virya transforms every level of man's life: physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual. To understand the birth of Virya, we must begin with its absence, the spiritual death that results from unconscious sexual indulgence. Most men today are slaves to their lower nature. The world has conditioned them to chase pleasure endlessly. Pornography, casual sex, masturbation, and orgasm addiction have become the norm. In this endless pursuit of momentary release, men lose their fire. Their testosterone plummets. Their drive dissipates. Their willpower erodes. Their spirit becomes dull. When a man habitually expels a seed, he is not just losing a few drops of fluid. He is losing his essence. Semen contains not just sperm but hundreds of vital compounds: zinc, magnesium, calcium, enzymes, hormones, and neurotransmitters. More importantly, it contains life force, prana, chi, ajas, virya. The ancients understood this. They knew that semen is not waste. It is sacred. The modern man, disconnected from ancient wisdom, spends his power frivolously. He is depleted. He walks through life half asleep, tired, anxious, depressed, passive, and disconnected from purpose. He cannot focus, cannot build, cannot protect, and cannot lead. In this state of spiritual impotence, he forgets who he is. This is the lowest point, the state of disempowerment from which the birth of Virya must emerge. The journey toward Virya begins with a single decision: to stop leaking. The man begins to notice how drained he feels after ejaculation. He observes how much time, energy, and thought go into sexual fantasy. He realizes that lust is no longer serving him. Instead of feeding his lower nature, he begins to resist it. This resistance is the beginning of strength. Semen retention is not easy. It is not for the weak. It requires willpower, discipline, and vision. The initial days are often marked by intense urges, confusion, and temptation. But it is precisely in this battle that Virya is born. The energy that once flowed outward now begins to circulate within. As a man persists, his inner fire is rekindled. His eyes become brighter. His voice deepens. His presence sharpens. His testosterone rises. His confidence returns. He walks taller. He begins to reclaim his masculine edge, not the toxic kind, but the sacred masculine. Strong, grounded, protective, and purpose-driven. The birth of Virya has begun. The transformation of energy from seed to fire. Every ejaculation releases a part of a man's soul. Every retention transforms that energy into something higher. Biologically, the body begins to reabsorb the nutrients of the retained semen. Zinc is stored, serotonin stabilizes, and dopamine receptors reset. The man feels more alert, more focused, and more emotionally stable. But the physical changes are just the surface. Energetically, something powerful is happening. The raw sexual energy once wasted through lust now becomes available for creation, action, and spiritual ascent. This energy rises through the chakras. It fuels the base with vitality, empowers the heart with courage, and illuminates the mind with insight. In yogic systems, this rising energy is called kundalini. In Taoist tradition, it is a jing being converted into qi. In modern terms, it is a transmutation of libido into creative power, ambition, and divine inspiration. This is the birth of Virya's energy, concentrated, dynamic, and sacred. No longer used for reproduction or entertainment, this energy now becomes the man's fuel for greatness. The birth of Virya brings with it a new mind. The fog begins to lift. The man's thoughts become clearer. His attention is no longer scattered on sexual fantasies. He sees through illusions. He begins to think long-term. His dopamine, once hijacked by porn and pleasure, begins to normalize. He becomes less reactive, more strategic. His focus sharpens like a sword. This mental clarity turns into warrior-like focus. The man no longer wastes hours on meaningless pursuits. He prioritizes what matters: his mission, his purpose, his body, his craft, his discipline. He becomes a man who builds, a man who leads, a man who gets things done. This is not just productivity. It is a mental rebirth, a reclaiming of inner control, a sharpening of the masculine intellect. Virya is now a mind state, disciplined, precise, and unstoppable. One of the least talked about benefits of semen retention is emotional alchemy. When a man retains, his emotional resilience increases. He is no longer so easily shaken. He does not cry over rejection. He does not collapse under pressure. He begins to carry emotional weight like a warrior. Why? Because semen retention strengthens the nervous system. It grounds the body and calms the mind. It helps a man process his pain without numbing it. Instead of running to lust to escape his wounds, he now sits with them, breathes through them, and transforms them. Virya is emotional maturity. It is a capacity to feel deeply but not be ruled by emotion. It is the courage to face one's shadows, the integrity to act with love even in conflict, the strength to forgive, to hold boundaries, and to speak truth. The spiritually immature man collapses in adversity. The man with Virya grows in it. Every challenge becomes a mirror. Every test becomes a forge. He is becoming whole. The energy of Virya is not just internal. It radiates outward. As the man retains, his aura changes. Women feel it. Men respect it. Children trust it. He carries a presence that cannot be faked. His sexual energy is no longer scattered or needy. It is grounded, focused, and full of purpose. This magnetism is not just about attraction. It is about influence. The man with Virya can walk into a room and shift the atmosphere. He can inspire action with his words. He can lead without trying to dominate. He does not need approval. He radiates confidence from within. This is not about ego. It is about alignment with divine masculine energy. The man with Virya becomes a vessel of God's will. He walks in purpose, speaks with truth, protects with strength, and creates with vision. He is no longer a boy seeking pleasure. He is a king building a kingdom. The highest fruit of Virya is not strength or sex appeal. It is vision. Semen retention is a path to divine purpose. When a man stops wasting his life force, his soul begins to speak louder. He starts to remember why he is here. He gets visions, ideas, a sense of destiny. He feels called to something higher. This is not fantasy. It is dharma, sacred purpose. The man with Virya begins to shape his life around that purpose. He lets go of distractions. He sacrifices comfort. He walks the path of discipline. He builds his body like a temple. He trains his mind like a sword. He aligns his heart with truth. This inner fire is not fleeting. It is sustained. It is eternal. It is the birth of the warrior sage, the man who lives not for pleasure but for purpose, the man who burns with divine fire. Before Virya can fully be born, something must die. The man must let go of who he was, the lust-driven version of himself. He must bury the addict, the coward, the passive boy who chose comfort over challenge, the seeker of pleasure who feared responsibility. That self must die. This death is painful. It is lonely. Friends will not understand. Women may question. The world will tempt. But the man walks on. He lets go. He grieves. He sheds the skin of his old identity. And then, from that grave, he rises. The birth of Virya is the rebirth of the true man, the one who leads, the one who protects, the one who loves deeply, acts with power, and lives with honor. Virya is not a one-time achievement. It is a lifestyle. To sustain it, the man must train daily, physically through strength, nutrition, and rest, mentally through learning, meditation, and purpose work, emotionally through self-awareness and integrity, spiritually through prayer, silence, or devotion to a higher source. Temptation never fully leaves. The urges come and go, but the man now has tools. He transmutes. He breathes. He remembers who he is. Every time he chooses retention, he chooses his higher self. Every time he says no to lust, he says yes to greatness. This is not repression. It is redirection. Sexual energy is not evil. It is divine. But when used unconsciously, it destroys. When used wisely, it creates empires. The birth of Virya is the rebirth of the sacred masculine. It is a return of the warrior, the protector, the creator, and the king. In a world drowning in distraction and weakness, the man who retains becomes a rare force. He becomes magnetic, focused, resilient, and deeply alive. He no longer chases pleasure. He commands purpose. He no longer fears loneliness. He walks with God. He no longer seeks validation. He gives value. To retain is to rebel against mediocrity, to choose greatness, to align with destiny. And so, Virya is not just a word. It is a birth, a fire, a force. And when it is born in a man, the world feels it. Join the Retain to Thrive Telegram channel at the link below, where we focus on building discipline, overcoming distractions, and achieving goals. Join the supportive community sharing tips, motivation, and accountability. Let's grow together, one step at a time.